Okay, so let's get back and see if we can do some more work with our data. We don't need to split the data yet. We saw how to do that, so I'm going to get rid of that pill. Maybe. There we go. All right, so let's say we have some data. We look at our output from our last run, and let's take a look at that. And we'll just look at the data right here after the partition and sample. So let's see if we can find any fields that have a fair amount of missing data. All right, so months since last delinquent, months since last record. And we have a couple others like that, months since last major derogatory report. All right, so let's tackle one of those. So months since last delinquent, we can take a look at the range here. And actually we would need, so let's run a, I want to find out what the range is. So I'm going to run a summarized data here and see what we have. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Designer, get to my Lending Club pipeline, and then bring in a summarized data to look at what we have. All right, so I'll go ahead and run that real fast, come right back, and we'll see how things look. Okay, we're wrapping up here, and this is a good lesson. It's not a bad idea to have a summarized data on pretty much any pipeline you build, maybe even at various points in your pipeline, because you may want to go back and explore your data over and over again. All right, so let's go to that months since last delinquency. So here we can see it's cast as a categorical variable. All right, so that tells me we need to actually change the data type. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll make months since for delinquent and last recorded. Let's see what else we've got. We'll just do those two for now, but this is an exercise you would want to do for other variables as well. So let's see, we'll use edit metadata. So here in the edit metadata, when I go to columns, let's edit the columns, and I will select the columns by column name. All right, so what are my column names? Which column names do I want to use? Well, let's see, months since last delinquent, and I'm just going to copy and paste that. Whoop, not all of that. Months since last delinquent. And then I can add another one. Let's make that one months since last record. All right, so I could save that. And what I want to do is I want to change both of these to an integer. All right. And I'll leave them in the exact same column, so I won't give them a new column name. So let's run this and then see if we can summarize our data and check our range for those two fields. Okay, so let's take a look at our results now. We go to months since last delinquent. Now we've got min of 0, a max of 129, a min of 1 for months since last record, a max of 119. So that gets into, well, what do we want to do if we have a missing value? So months since last delinquent, we're basically tracking, how reliable is this customer? How reliable is this lendee? And 129 would be more than 10 years since their last delinquency, 119. So if that's the upper limit of what we have, and typically bankruptcy records go back 7 years, so that's 84 months. And we're looking at 129 here. So we could take two approaches here. We could say, okay, if it's missing, I'll give it the top value here, 129 or 119. Or I might say, let's make it a little bit bigger just so we know that this is beyond the range of the rest of the data we have. So you could make it 140 or maybe even 150 or 200. So let's go back into our workspace and we're going to clean missing data. So let's go back to our tools component and let's try clean. So clean missing data. And we want to go and edit our node names as usual. Edit. So we're going to clean missing months since. Set at, let's just make it a good clean 200. All right, so that's a good bit above. And depending on what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to do a classification or a regression, for a regression, you might want to stay a little bit closer to the original upper bound, or you might even want to set it to some clipping threshold that you may have set. All right, so in this case, we'll clean missing data, and the columns I want to clean are again those same two. So let's say, let me go back and take a look at them. Months since last delinquent. And months since last record. And I could actually put that in here too as well. And take this away. So I've got these two columns that I'm working with. And in this case, I'm going to use a custom substitution value. But you can see I've got a couple other options here. I can replace with mean, median, or mode. Those are not generally preferred approaches these days. We've got better options like mice and PCA type approaches or a component analysis. We can also set some rules here that say if I have more than 0.5, 50% of the values missing in a particular column, I could say remove the entire column. Or I could say remove the entire row if I've got plenty of data and I don't mind losing the few missing if I just have a few missing. In this case, we're just going to put in a custom substitution value and we'll make that value the 200 we were thinking of. Another thing we can do is, go ahead and generate an indicator column that says, we had a missing value here, and that we can use that as another predictor. All right. So clean missing months since set to 200. And we can run this one. I'll add another summarized data again, so we can see what it looks like when we're done. Now you'll see we have two outputs on this one. We've got the cleaned data set, so that's the actual data that was created. And then we have a cleaning transformation. So basically that's a set of rules that were created that you can then save and use elsewhere in other pipelines. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. And if we look at the clean missing data and preview the data, the cleaned data set, and I'll go ahead and open up the summarized data. So we've got both of those available, maximize. So the clean data set now, if we scroll over to months since, now we have a bunch of values that are 200. We also, if we go all the way over to the right, have two new features. Months since last delinquent is missing, and months since last record is missing. All right, so we can go to our result data set and see now we have range up to 200 for both of these. So that's going to change things. It'll change my mean, deviation, etc., which is going to be possibly an issue for regression, but that's not going to hurt us for a classification technique for the most part. All right, so months since last delinquent is missing. Now I have those two new indicator columns that I can use. You can see months since last record, the mean is almost true, whereas months since last delinquent, we've got about half of them missing. All right, so that's it for clean missing data. Let's go back and see what we'd like to do next.